This empty wall in the Louvre was the exact reason the Mona Lisa became the most famous painting in the world. It even made Pablo Picasso a prime suspect. So now how did a simple handyman pull off the greatest art heist of the 20th century? Paris, Tuesday morning, August 22nd, 1911. French painter Louis Béroux enters the Louvre. He's carrying his equipment, planning to paint a copy of a masterpiece in the Salon Carré. He walks toward the wall where the painting should be, but freezes in shock. The painting wasn't there. There was nothing but an empty space and 4 iron hooks sticking out of the wall. Louis asked the guards, "Where is the Mona Lisa?" The guards, completely unbothered, assumed the museum's official photographers had taken it to the studio. You see, security at the Louvre back then wasn't what it is today. There were over 1,000 rooms, and only a handful of retired guards to protect them. Hours passed. Anxiety began to set in. A guard finally went to check with the photography studio. And then came the shock. The painting is not there. The Mona Lisa has vanished. The museum doors were instantly locked, and one of the massive manhunts in art history began. But the question wasn't just, where is the painting? It was, how could someone steal it and walk right out the doors of the Louvre without anyone noticing? To answer that, we must travel back in time to Sunday, August 20th, 2 days before the discovery. Meet Vincenzo Peruggia, an Italian man in his 30s working as a glazier. Vincenzo wasn't a professional thief. He wasn't part of an organized crime syndicate. He was just a simple worker hired by the Louvre to build protective glass cases for their most important paintings. The ultimate irony. Vincenzo is the very man who built the glass case protecting the Mona Lisa. He knew the painting, he knew its frame, and most importantly, he knew the museum. But Vincenzo carried a deep nationalistic anger in his heart. As an Italian, he mistakenly believed that Napoleon Bonaparte had looted the Mona Lisa from Italy during his conquests. He had no idea that Da Vinci himself brought it to France. To Vincenzo, the mission was clear. The Mona Lisa must be returned to her motherland. Sunday evening. As the museum prepared to close, Vincenzo didn't leave with the other workers. Instead, he slipped into a tiny broom closet. He spent the entire night locked in suffocating darkness. Imagine waiting for hours, knowing every echoing footstep could mean capture. Monday morning, August 21st. The museum was closed for maintenance. Vincenzo put on a white smock, the official uniform of Louvre maintenance workers, and stepped out of the closet. He looked like just another employee. He walked calmly to the gallery. It was empty. He approached the Mona Lisa. Using his skills as a craftsman, he detached the heavy painting from the wall. He carried it to a nearby service stairwell. There he ripped off the wooden frame and the very glass he had built, and wrapped the wooden panel in his white smock. But his plan almost failed. When he reached the door leading to the street, it was locked. He desperately tried to open it, but couldn't. His heart was pounding. the painting under his arm. He was trapped. Suddenly, a museum plumber walked by. Instead of suspecting Vincenzo, he thought he was just a fellow worker locked inside, and helped him open the door. And just like that, Vincenzo Peruggia walked right out of the Louvre and vanished into the streets of Paris. By Wednesday, newspapers around the globe were talking about one thing: the heist of the century. It turned into absolute media madness. Thousands of people lined up to enter the Louvre, not to see art, but to stand and stare at the empty space where the Mona Lisa used to be. The Paris police were desperate, so desperate, they started interrogating anyone and everyone. Do you know who their prime suspect was? The legendary painter, Pablo Picasso. Picasso and his poet friend, Apollinaire, had previously bought small statues that, unbeknownst to them, Apollinaire's secretary had stolen from the Louvre. When the Mona Lisa was taken, police thought Picasso and his gang were behind it. He was brought in and interrogated. He was so terrified, he actually denied even knowing his friend. Ultimately, they were released due to lack of evidence. Days passed, then months, then years. Where was the painting? Where was the Mona Lisa? It wasn't in a billionaire's mansion. It wasn't in a mobster's vault. It was in a filthy, tiny apartment in the outskirts of Paris, hidden in a wooden trunk with a false bottom, right under Vincenzo Peruggia's bed. Vincenzo literally slept on top of the Mona Lisa for 2 entire years. Finally, in the autumn of 1913, Vincenzo decided it was time. He wrote a letter to an Italian art dealer in Florence named Alfredo Gheri, signing it with the alias Leonardo. He offered to return the Mona Lisa to Italy for a reward of 500,000 lire. Vincenzo took a train to Florence. He met the dealer, who had brought along the director of the famous Uffizi Gallery. When Vincenzo opened the trunk, the two men couldn't believe their eyes. It was her, with her enigmatic smile and the official Louvre stamps on the back. They convinced Vincenzo to leave the painting with them for authentication, and the moment he walked out the door, they called the police. Vincenzo Peruggia was arrested in his hotel room. During his trial, he defended himself, claiming he did it purely out of patriotism. The Italian public actually sympathized with him, viewing him as a national hero, and he was sentenced to only 7 months in prison. The Mona Lisa returned to the Louvre to a legendary reception. Before the theft, she was just a famous painting among art experts. But after the theft, and the photos plastered across newspaper front pages for 2 solid years, she transformed into what she is today, the most famous painting on earth. Vincenzo Peruggia didn't just steal the Mona Lisa, he gave her immortality. Thank you for tuning in to this bizarre historical tale. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon for more stories history tried to keep hidden. See you next time.